You're from Westlake. There's the Russell Ranch. It's pretty known in Austria because of Bonanza. Well, Westlake's also a Chumash settlement. Have you ever gotten into that Native American history of your hometown?
A little bit. There's a few areas that have some old drawings on cool rocks, and there's actually a place on my property that has, or near my property, that it's a bit of a hike down to this creek, and there you can find some ancient, drawings, and apparently used to be a Native American dwelling, so there were good times, So I think I feel a pretty positive energy because, as far as I know, my wife knows a little bit more about this than I do. But from what I've been told, it was a place for family and celebration and food rather than some of the more difficult times.
Which now again is a place for family and
yeah,
and
yeah. But
party.
again, this is walking distance from my place, but not actually where I live.
Okay. When you were a kid, you were a surfer dude. Well, you still are. You did rap battles. When did you start getting into LA rock scene? I mean, when you were 14, Guns N' Roses was the biggest band on the planet.
I never got to see Guns N' Roses, but we've become friends with Duff, the bass player, and he's played with us. So I guess that's the closest thing to getting to see them. And
This is Duff McKagan from Loaded, and you're watching MULATSCHAG, the only TV show you really need.
I mean, he's played with us. He's filled in a couple times and played a couple songs with us in Los Angeles and in Washington, which is where he's from, nearby Seattle. But I think when I got my license, when I turned 16 and I could drive, is when I realized that there was a whole world just 35 minutes away from where I lived, where I could discover different live concerts and get to see great punk rock shows and rock shows. But I was much more into to hardcore and punk rock than I was into the mainstream rock and roll.
And Rage. I mean, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I never got to see Rage, but again, we got to play with them later on with Prophets of Rage, and I got to sing a couple of Zach's parts on stage, which was cool for me because I've been training my whole life to do something like that, so it was really cool.
You got a bullet in your head. Bullet in your head. Bullet in your head.
Well, Rage, they quite discussed the 92 LA riots. How was that for you? Again, you were a kid then.
Yeah, I was like 13 or 14 around that time, and I was nowhere near it, so I didn't experience it. I was just in the suburbs,
Just watching the
just
news.
watching on TV. And
You would think that they would not expose seemingly innocent people driving through this intersection in their cars to this kind of violence.
Now also right behind those I see about 7 LAPD police cars. If we pan just a little bit to the left, Dave, I'm sorry.
To be a firefighter or a police officer, their lives in extreme danger tonight, and our hats off to them, and we respect them and we appreciate everything they're doing.
the news glorifies everything, of course. But I think I went to a Dodger game to see the LA Dodgers that day, and on the way home, my mom was scared, but I made it home and everything was all right.
Coming to a band name, I'm sure you discussed that quite often.
Well, it's just a metaphor for a bigger concept than just what the word AWOL stands for, the term absent without leave. I attached nation to it in a lighthearted way to hopefully, and also thought, ambitiously, if I had a gigantic sounding name, then a lot of people would check us out, and even if no one did, at least I had a name that in a fantasy world had a nation to follow. But it's just, I encourage anyone, if you're in a weird situation and you makes you uncomfortable, you feel like you could be in a better situation, whether it's a job you don't like, a relationship that seems difficult for you, that you don't have to always explain yourself, and you could leave without explanation. So it's a good way to try to go about your life, that you could always do better, and not settle for mediocrity or how often do we stay in relationships that out of boredom it's always hard to break up, or it's always hard to have an ending to a chapter in life, and any chance you get to have that necessary ending, it's good for both parties. So I use that as the best way I could describe what the name means to me and what we've created with this music.
Well, yeah, it seems kind of odd, when there's 8 billion people on the planet and we're stuck and bound to one or two.
Yeah, it can be, yeah. But if you find the right person, it's beautiful too, and
True.
the right person. But we've all been in, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship, or it could be someone you're in a band with that's not fitting right, and it's not the end of the world to make changes, is all I'm trying to say, I guess.
One of your inspirations was Jeff Buckley from OC, California. When and how did you get into his music?
He's not from California.
Oh, he's from OC originally.
Orange County?
Yeah.
I don't know. You may be right, but
He moved to New York then.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll trust you. But
Right.
anyways, yeah, he's such a great singer, and when I discovered his voice, it made me feel real comfortable attempting to sing much more feminine and using my falsetto, my higher range of my voice, because he did it with such grace, which is the name of his famous record, of course. And it just sounded so great when he sang, and it was so operatic and theatrical and beautiful. So it was a huge influence on me and made me. Not that I would ever compare myself to him, because he's on a whole nother level of a singer, of course. But I just fell head over heels in love with that record. And there's a lot of records that he's not the only one. I mean, yeah. As you go through life, there's records that are so important to you, and they influence the way you think, the way you move, the way you dress, and the way you approach your own art or whatever it is you're passionate about. So that's definitely one of them for sure.
In a few hours, AWOL Nation's most devoted fans will fill the room to witness their favorite band perform a live recording in one take.
A couple weeks ago, you had this analog adventure in Vienna. Tell us about that. How was that?
It was cool. They asked us if we wanted to record here in Vienna at Super Sense, it's called, right? Yeah, and I always get it feels weird to say that in English, and so I always check myself with the local Austrians when I say it. But yeah, it was so cool. It was an honor to be asked to do it and be able to play and record straight to vinyl, as everybody knows. And our drummer broke his kick pedal in the first song, so we had to start over. But it was kind of fun. So anyone that has the actual vinyl gets to hear that the funny banter in between,
Funny thing, the executive producer of that film, Analog in Vienna, used to be a host at our show for years. Sabine, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, seemed like a great person.
MULATSCHAG.
When you recorded Sail, did you know how big this Austrian company is you're working with?
I had no thoughts of the Austrian company. I was just making music, just doing the best I could to try to make a song that I would like a lot and be proud of, and hopefully my friends would like. I don't even know if I had a record deal at the time. It was just a song I created.
Because when was it when you found out that that Red Bull was also Formula One and football and that big of a company it is?
Well, I knew how massive Red Bull. Everybody knows how massive Red Bull is as a company, and I've been to a couple Red Bull parties. I think that were always so extremely, over the top and cool. But it wasn't until after the record came out and we came to Austria for the first time that I saw Hangar 7 and saw all the cool stuff that the company has, and the different planes and helicopters. I went skydiving. I went in a helicopter that did a front flip over a mountain where The Sound of Music was filmed, and it was just absolutely epic, you know. So it wasn't really until I came here, I went to the stadium, they made a jersey for me, I got to run on the field. So yeah, I had no idea really how deep. I had an idea of how powerful and huge the company was, but it wasn't until I experienced it firsthand that I really got to enjoy it, you know. So that was cool.
Did they invite you to some Formula One race?
Yeah, we played the opening of the Formula One race that was in what is it? What? Spielberg.
Oh, the Austrian Grand Prix?
Yes, that's what it was. I should have known that because it's, you know, similar to the great director, of course. But and I believe that was where the boss's hometown was or something like that, and it was meant a lot to that town to bring the race back there, so it was really cool. And then I stayed for the race, and I felt like I was in a James Bond movie, you know. It was like everybody was like dressed good and beautiful hors d'oeuvres being served and great drinks, so it was really memorable experience. And I got to go in the pit before the race started, and it was like, you know, there's not a lot of Formula One racing. It's not as popular in the States, so it was a completely new experience for me. It was really cool.
Oh, Americans are more Daytona.
Not me, though. I don't, you know. I like baseball, basketball, and American football.
Do you drive at all? Do you have a car?
Yeah, I do. I'm a good driver. I am. So if the Red Bull team needs a guy to fill in, I could do that.
When it comes to the big questions in life, no one really knows answers. How do you picture, let's say, the next dimension, the next level, whatever?
You know, I'd like to think that one thing that is exciting about you talking about like the afterlife kind of thing, like after we pass here. Well, certainly will be cool to find out if you were right or wrong, right? And I suppose the answer will be right away, you know. So that's something to kind of look forward to in a lot of ways. But
it would be nice to sit there with guys like, I don't know, that tell you, oh, you did that good, you did that not so good.
It would be nice to have a judge and a jury to say find out what songs they liked most, you know, and what they didn't like, and you know, so some of the questions, the unexplainable truths of this world would be really cool to find out, you know, because I'm constantly thinking about that kind of stuff.
If it's good for something.
Yeah, I think the world's beautiful, and there's a lot more to just what we see here for sure.
Yeah.
MULATSCHAG.